Today on The Brief, 19 leaders of the world's biggest economies and a representative of the European Union are set to meet on Friday and Saturday in Argentina as part of the Group of 20 summit. The 10th anniversary of the G20 is a great moment to reflect on what the group has and has not accomplished, as well as what role it can hope to play in the age of rising nationalism and expanding geopolitical competition. Let's find out in this episode of The Brief. Welcome to The Brief. I'm Jafar Hasnan. It was exactly 10 years ago today when President George W. Bush convened an emergency summit of the world's main economic powers. For the first time, the most important established and emerging nations met as equal partners to solve the various global issues of the day. The event reflected a new reality. Western governments could no longer hope to resolve international economic crises themselves. They needed a more encompassing body that included rising nations. Ever since then, the G20 is now an annual fixture. Its members represent 2/3 of the world's population, generate 85% of the global GDP, and account for 75% of international trade. Because it is more flexible and less encompassing than formal, treaty-based institutions, the G20 has more expectancy to come up with plausible solutions to global issues than other bodies like the United Nations. This year, all eyes will be on a range of issues, including high-stakes meetings between U.S. President Donald Trump and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping to discuss the ongoing trade war between the two superpowers, the tensions between Russia and Ukraine after seizure of multiple Ukrainian sea vessels, the humanitarian crisis in Yemen, and last but not the least, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's appearance at the summit is expected to cause some protests over the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Will this critical meeting produce any substantial results? Or will it just be another stalemate as the last few years have lingered on? We'll find out in this episode of The Brief. For now, let's take a look at this report on the G20 summit.
All eyes will be on Buenos Aires, Argentina on Friday and Saturday as leaders from 19 of the world's top economies, as well as representatives from the European Union, gather for the 13th G20 summit. This year's meeting comes as tensions grow between China and the United States over trade differences. A conflict between Russia and Ukraine escalates, and pressure mounts to hold Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to account for the murder of writer Jamal Khashoggi. The prolonged trade war between the world's two largest economies, China and the United States, is likely to steal the spotlight at the summit. The meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Chinese President Xi Jinping on the sidelines of the Buenos Aires summit will no doubt make the headlines. Secondly, Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman will get his first chance to meet Western leaders since the murder of Khashoggi. Among the few leaders, he's expected to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan.
The world wants to see us get along.
Russian President Vladimir Putin and U.S. President Donald Trump are scheduled to meet for talks on Saturday. The two leaders will look for ways to break out of a deadlock in relations when they meet for talks that will touch on strategic stability in Syria, Iran and North Korea.
I would like to make a statement on the conclusion of our negotiations.
UK Prime Minister Theresa May will also use the G20 to sell Britain's post-Brexit trading future outside the EU.
So we're going to get access to markets.
The United States, Mexico and Canada, on the other hand, are expected to sign a revised NAFTA on Friday, which has been dubbed the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. In addition, as with other G20 summits, anti-capitalist and other protests are expected throughout the conference. Rights groups have also planned to protest the potential appearance of Saudi Prince Mohammed over the kingdom's role in Yemen and the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi.
Welcome back. Now, as the Group of 20 summit is underway in Argentina, security measures have been taken by Argentina to ensure that the summit goes smoothly. Now, this is the 13th summit of the Group of 20, and Argentina was made the president of this summit on the 30th of November 2017. While the summit will focus on infrastructure, trade, and food sustainability, there are many other meetings which will take place at the sidelines of this summit. One of these meetings is the meeting between the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and the U.S. President Donald Trump, and also a potential meeting that could take place between the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. This will be the first meeting, if it happens, between the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman after the brutal killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on the 2nd of October. Now, Saudi Arabia plays a key role in this killing, as initially they denied any involvement in the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi, but on the 19th of October, they acknowledged that Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside the Saudi consulate in Istanbul. Now, Turkey has been at the forefront of the investigations, and according to Turkey, high-profile Saudi officials were involved in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. But Saudi Arabia has denied these claims, and just like Saudi Arabia, Donald Trump has also denied that the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman was involved in the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. And now another crucial development came along. The CIA has concluded that the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman ordered the killing of Jamal Khashoggi. However, Trump still says that he will not take any actions against the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And this has created backlash within the United States, as many senators and congressmen in the United States are accusing Donald Trump of putting Saudi first. So we have to keep an eye out for this meeting, if it happens, in Argentina between the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman. As in Argentina, the Human Rights Watch have asked the Argentinian prosecutors to open up a criminal case against the Saudi Crown Prince. So definitely a lot of backlash against the Saudi Crown Prince. We have to keep an eye out on how this meeting will happen, if it happens. For now, let's take a look at how the G20 leaders are preparing for the G20 summit.
World leaders are making final preparations for this week's G20 summit in Argentina on Friday and Saturday. On November the 30th and December the 1st, leading heads of state and governments from around the world will meet in Buenos Aires to take part in the G20 Leaders Summit. The 2018 summit will mark the 10th anniversary since the first G20 summit, which took place in 2008 in response to the global financial crisis. The summit will take place in South America for the first time in its history. The meeting, which is billed as the moment when US-China trade tensions could come to a head, may become the most important G20 since the 2009 meeting in London during the storm of the global financial crisis. The two-day meeting will focus on development, infrastructure and food security, with further talks centered around Washington and Beijing and the signing of the new North American Free Trade Deal. Discussions will also be held to address key issues on today's international agenda, including the Ukraine-Russia crisis, the Jamal Khashoggi case, and climate change.
So just like you saw, many crucial items are on the agenda to be discussed at the G20 summit among leaders from 20 countries. And today we are joined by two guests, one from Ankara and one from the United States. Let me bring in the first guest for today's brief, which is Mr. Taha Arwas, who is a columnist at Daily Sabah. And in the United States, we have Mr. Mark Tomass, who is a professor at Harvard University. First of all, thank you very much to both of you for being with us on the brief. Let me start by asking you, Mr. Arwas, first. Now, International Monetary Fund Chairwoman Christine Lagarde has said that the world leaders' escalating tensions in the economy, such as the trade war between the U.S. and China and Brexit, could hurt the global economy. So how do you think this summit could help in healing those tensions?
Well, I think that the main point of the summit, the main issue, the core issue, I think it's called the era of isolationism, and that's very much what we're in. Perhaps it was begun with President Trump's election, or perhaps it was begun with this stream of nationalist, populist leaders being elected around the world. So I very much echo those sentiments. I think Christine Lagarde is very correct in that this summit will be key to addressing those issues. Whether the world will continue on the current, with the latest election of the president of Brazil, scope towards nationalism and isolationism, or whether it will come back to a more geopolitical cooperation environment that we've seen in the past. So I definitely agree with her comments there.
Okay, now, Professor Tomass, let me come to you. The most important meeting planned during this summit is the meeting, the dinner meeting between the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Chinese President Xi Jinping. Now, Donald Trump, since the start of 2018, has been saying that a deal will be reached with China in November. And I believe by November he meant the G20 summit. So do you think that there are bright chances of a deal between the U.S. and China?
Whatever they agree on is going to be a face-saving agreement, because the demands that the U.S. is imposing on China are not possible to accomplish. There are two things I would like to hear say. One is there are legitimate demands against China, and that is their enforcement or lack of enforcement of property right, intellectual property right in China. So that is you cannot reasonably expect China to be able to enforce intellectual property rights instantly or within a few months or even within a few years. This is a matter of legal culture, and a matter of culture. For it to change is going to take a long time. So the Chinese are saying we are not able to do anything instantly about that. The other thing is the bulk of the U.S. trade deficit with China is a result of the higher level of investment in the United States as opposed to the level of savings in the United States. So what we have is a capital inflow, net capital inflow coming in from all over the world into the United States, that bringing that in higher investment over savings. So because of that imbalance, we have higher imports as opposed to the exports. So for the trade imbalance to be fixed with China, we would have to have our savings rate to be higher so that the capital inflow would diminish. Because what's happening is the capital inflow is coming in and raising the value of the dollar, therefore enabling Americans to buy more imported goods. So that is not something that China can do anything about, and that cannot be fixed with tariffs. I mean, the tariffs are going to hurt American consumers, I mean, they will hurt the Chinese definitely, but the people who are paying the higher tariffs are the American consumers. So you cannot expect any solution to take place with this meeting, that they would reach a deal. Yeah, they may say that we reached a deal, but it's going to be only a face-saving deal.
Okay, now,
something to say to the world, a PR. In other words, it's a public relations deal.
Now, let me get what Mr. Taha has to say about it. Now, do you think that world leaders at this summit could potentially find a solution to the trade war between the U.S. and China?
I echo what Professor Tomass said. I'm not sure that a deal will be reached at this meeting. I think there are other more important issues that are firefighting issues, if you will. The recent Ukraine-Russia skirmish is very important. I think President Trump, just a few minutes ago, said that he would not meet with President Putin at the meeting, which seems highly unlikely and frankly very difficult. You're going to be in the same room with each other. So those issues are very much reflect what Europe is worried about, what Russia is worried about, what Turkey, frankly, is worried about. The larger issues about trade with China and trade imbalances, I think have been worked out behind the scenes. I think the Chinese yuan is at the lowest level it's been in over a decade. The Chinese stock markets, both Shenzhen and Shanghai, are down over 30% on the year. What perhaps the most important thing that's going to come out of this meeting from the most important person is the person who's not at the meeting at all, and that's the Federal Reserve Chairman, who said yesterday that they will slow the increase in interest rates. The rate of the hikes will slow. In fact, they may be done for now. He said they're almost at neutral. This is very important to China, frankly, to India, to all the other countries that are at this meeting other than the United States, because this reflects the dollar's strength against those currencies. And as Professor Tomass alluded to, it's a very, very important issue. So if that's the case, that will allow a lot of these countries to breathe a sigh of relief, and trade will kind of work itself out from there. It'll cost the American consumer more to buy foreign goods, and that might be better for these countries.
Okay, now, Professor Tomass, let me come to you. Until 2 years ago, I believe that the G20 could depend on the United States as the greatest champion. But after the arrival of an America First president, do you think the United States would still be a champion at the G20 summit, or that has changed?
Well, the United States is going to focus on its own interests at this moment. What happened was this counter-movement to globalization finally reached the United States. The counter-movement to globalization has been taking place for almost for the past 15 years across the world. But now the U.S. is becoming part of that counter-movement, like the way the Brexit took place or is taking place in Britain. So I don't think I think the U.S. can here only act as a public relations agent to make people feel that everything is okay. But practically speaking, the U.S. is going to act like any nation that puts its interests above all other interests. That is, it's going to counter all of the free global market movement. It's going to have laws against free flow of commodities in order to advance the interests of its own industries. Now, that said, I don't think this is going to succeed. In other words, it's not going to bring the U.S. into a better position. But that's the mood right now. The mood of the public right now is a nationalist mood.
Okay, now, Mr. Awas, let me come to you. Another important item will be at the G20 is the murder of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, this is the first time the U.S. President Donald Trump and the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman might have a meeting. Now, Saudi Arabia is one of the biggest investors in the United States, and despite the investigation conducted by CIA, which says that the order to kill Jamal Khashoggi came from the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, Mohammed bin Salman, Donald Trump has refused to take any actions against the Saudi Crown Prince. So what is your take on a meeting between the Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and the U.S. President Donald Trump, if it happens at the summit? Do you think it will somehow reduce tensions in the world which exist as we speak right now?
I think President Trump kind of made clear, and his administration made clear, that they don't care what the CIA says. Obviously, I haven't listened to the tape that we're talking about. I know the CIA director has listened to the tape. She said she had. But President Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, said that he had not listened to the tape. And President Trump made it very clear after the CIA director came to Turkey to discuss this issue that he didn't care, frankly, if the United States knew about the murder of Jamal Khashoggi beforehand, if anyone in the Saudi government was responsible. He said, I hope, I think the tweet was, unless you want oil at $150, or if you like the price of gas where it is now, then this is how things will be. We don't care who killed Jamal Khashoggi. That's what the message is. President Trump said that, and I think he believes that. And I think a lot of Americans agree with him. I mean, Listen, if gas was $8, $5, even $6 at the pump in America, that would make per gallon, that would make a huge difference for the popularity of President Trump. I mean, he's already in re-election mode. There's an election in less than 2 years in the United States for his continued role as President of the United States, and he's begun campaigning. And when people care about their pocketbook, or they care about their wallet, if you go, you want money in your pocket. A journalist was killed by 15 men in a consulate way far away in a country that no one is, in Turkey. It's so far away from you. Most Americans don't care, frankly. And these are a lot of the Americans who voted for Donald Trump. And they will continue to vote for him because gas is cheap. If the economy is good by then, Trump will be reelected. There's no doubt about that. So it's a non-issue. Who cares who murdered Jamal Khashoggi? So what if, assuming the Crown Prince ordered the killing, so what, says Trump? And this is really the sentiment. So I mean, I know a lot of Europeans care about it. I know it's been on the news in Turkey a lot and around the world, but I think it's a non-issue in the United States, and the administration has said it is a non-issue.
But, Mr. Irwin, it seems like that the U.S. Senate has a different stance, and let me take Professor Tomass' views on it. Now, the U.S. Senate has moved forward with a bill that could halt the U.S. military support to the Saudi-led coalition in Yemen because of the war crimes against in Yemen conducted by the Saudi-led coalition, and also for the killing of Saudi journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Now, if we look at it, the U.S. Senate is going in a different direction. The U.S. President is going in a different direction. Where do you think the whole case is going towards?
Well, it is a very positive development that the Congress is taking that position on Yemen. It is about time that they do something about it. I think eventually Donald Trump will succumb to Congress regarding Yemen. The question is regarding the Crown Prince. I think the problem with Donald Trump, I mean, he would rather see somebody else in Saudi Arabia right now, but he has realized that Mohammed bin Salman has total control of the military and intelligence, and he would not be able to replace him. If there would be such a mechanism to replace him with somebody, endorse somebody else in the family, he would have done that. The fact that he cannot do that, that's why he is sticking with Mohammed bin Salman. That said, I really doubt that any problems with Saudi Arabia or him saying something against Mohammed bin Salman or admitting that he may have a major role in the killing of Jamal Khashoggi, I don't think this has any relationship with the price of oil. Because look, Saudi Arabia is going to sell oil. What else is it going to do with the oil? It has to sell oil for it to maintain its internal peace. For example, what about Iran? Donald Trump is not saying anything about the price of oil increasing after his sanctions on Iran. So I think the question of the price of oil is just an excuse. By the way, he added just another excuse recently. He said that the stability of Saudi Arabia is very important for the security of Israel. That's the last argument he made. In other words, don't touch Saudi Arabia because it is very important for the security of Israel. So he is using any argument he has in order to maintain Mohammed bin Salman in power because he has no other options. I believe he has no other options because he is not able to influence the internal politics of Saudi Arabia right now.
Okay, now, Mr. Voss, my last question to you, very quickly. Given the current world order, do you think that we can expect something positive out of this G20 summit?
I mean, I would hope so, frankly. But the cynic in me says everything will be, the same as it has always been. It will be same old, same old. So don't get your hopes up, but hope for the best, I guess. What can I say?
All right, Professor Tomass, same question for you. Do you think something positive could come out of this G20 summit?
Yeah, it's a nice public relations meeting where people see each other and they, in case they have grudges against each other, they feel that may mitigate those grudges. On a personal level, it's a good thing. It's better than not to have it, but don't expect anything anything concrete coming out of this summit in particular.
Right, Mr. Mark Tomass in the United States and Taha Arwas in Ankara. Thank you very much for being with us on The Brief. So, there you have it. The 10th anniversary of the G20 summit is taking place today. The world is vastly a different place than it was at the initiation of the summit, and the state of global affairs have become even more dire. Though it is another annual meeting of some of the most powerful men in the world, we can't ever stop hoping that some good might come out of this, and perhaps the world can become a more just and equal place. As Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said, the world is bigger than five. Let's hope this summit there is greater equality in the world's economies and not just power to a few. Let's hope that hunger and poverty can be elevated from poor countries. And let's hope to get rid of world's threat of terrorism so that we can one day live in a just, equal, fair, and safe world. I'm Jafar Hasnan, and that was The Brief.